I would like to introduce our speakers. So we're very, very lucky to have Kayleigh Nicolaou from Kakadu Creative, an ethical design agency, who you might have seen before. Kayleigh took us through the carbon impact of the internet, about 18 months ago now. And then I'm going to introduce Alex Jurek, who is the Marketing and Communications Manager at PECT, which is the parent organisation to IIE. And she'll talk more specifically about the resources that you get particularly when you complete your IIE audit. But for now, I will hand over to Kayleigh.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. So as you can see on the screen, we're here today to help you to promote your sustainability achievements with confidence. Because at the end of the day, people need to know about the steps you're taking to build a better future. So what are we going to be covering today? Well, today's agenda will cover 6 key points. So I'm going to talk you through why it's important to communicate your green credentials. And obviously, Camilla has already laid some groundwork in regards to why it's important. I'll give you an introduction into the different forms of greenwashing. We'll cover the Green Claims Code and what it means to businesses. I'll also share some good and bad examples of the green claims comms and marketing, just to start to help you understand and get a real world examples of how to communicate your green claims and your green credentials. I'll also be talking about how to stop green hushing and start green shouting, which is what we're here today to do. And then I'll pass over to Alex, who will then talk you through the IIE assets and what you can do with those. But first, who am I? So obviously Camilla's given me a slight introduction. I'm Kayleigh. I'm co-founder of Kakadu Creative. We're a full service, ethical brand marketing and web agency, and we're focused on helping businesses to build a positive and sustainable future. Because at the end of the day, if we don't have a positive, sustainable future, we don't have a future. So that's what we're here to do and to support you to do that. So let's dive into this. Let's start with why it's important to communicate your green credentials. So 87% of customers have a more positive image of a company that supports social or environmental issues. 88% of customers will be more loyal to a company that supports social or environmental issues, and 92% of customers will be more likely to trust a company that supports social or environmental issues. So as you can see, people want to be more sustainable. They're looking for products and suppliers that help them to achieve this. Most businesses are taking action in one way or another, but they aren't talking about it. This means other businesses may feel that taking action isn't possible, or that it's too hard for a business like them to take action. So not only are customers looking for companies to make these actions, actually by sharing our green credentials and sharing our green actions, we're also helping to further the movement. We're helping to give other businesses that courage and support to believe that they can do it too. So you can also, as well as it being good for your business, you can also be an influence for change and positive change. So sharing your green actions encourages others to take action too. I've missed a bit. Sorry, yeah. So it'll help us to drive towards a net zero and sustainable future. So it's really important to share your green actions for your customers, but also to drive this movement forward. So let's dive into an introduction to the different forms of greenwashing. So we'll have quite often heard of the term greenwashing, but there are different faces of greenwashing. So the first one is green rinsing. So green rinsing is the practice of making insignificant environmental improvements to a product or service and using them to make exaggerated claims about its environmental benefit. So, for example, a company might claim that their product is eco-friendly because it uses 10% less plastic, even though the rest of the product's environmental impact remains unchanged. The next one is green labelling. So green labelling is a practice of using vague or misleading language on product labels to create the impression that a product is environmentally friendly. So for an example of this could be that companies will use a term such as natural, eco-friendly or green without providing any specific information about the product's environmental impact. The next would be green shifting. So green shifting is a practice of shifting a product's environmental impact from one area to another to create the impression that the product is environmentally friendly. So for example, a company might claim that their product is environmentally friendly because it's made from recycled materials, even though the production process is highly polluting. The next one is green lighting. So green lighting is a practice of promoting a product or service as environmentally friendly, even if it's not been proven to be so, and without providing any evidence to support these claims. So companies will make claims about their products or services without providing any evidence to support these claims. A high-profile example of this was Volkswagen being criticised for its greenwashing practices after it launched an ad campaign promoting its clean diesel cars as environmentally friendly. However, as we've all seen, it was later revealed that the company had installed software that allowed the cars to cheat emissions tests, resulting in much higher levels of pollution than was advertised. And the last one is green crowding. So green crowding is the practice of using environmental claims to differentiate a product or service in a crowded marketplace, even if the claims are not supported by evidence. So, for example, a company might claim that their product's environmentally friendly because it's made with recycled materials, even if the environmental benefits of using the recycled materials in that product are minimal. So these are some of the different phases of greenwashing. And it's important to just get familiar with them, because the more familiar you are with the different forms of greenwashing, the easier it will be for your business to avoid them and not fall foul of greenwashing problems. So on the back of that, we have another term that you've probably heard of, which is green hushing. Now, this is something that we're here to stop, basically to help you not to green hush your business's green credentials and your green activities. So green hushing is basically where companies may refrain from sharing their green credentials or environmental efforts, not necessarily out of malicious intent, but due to a fear of making mistakes or facing backlash for an inadequate effort. So it could be that you've got a fear of criticism, you're lacking the confidence in the green actions you've taken and you don't believe that they're worth shouting about, you're worried about reputational risks. Obviously, there are some very high profile cases where companies have been caught out for greenwashing and it's impacted their reputation. So you may be concerned about that. And you also may be concerned about legal and regulatory concerns. And that is why companies will quite often green hush. But we are here obviously today to help you to overcome some of these concerns and be confident to share your green credentials. So the next section is the Green Claims Code and what it means for your business. There's a really great little video that I'm going to play for you now, which helps, if you've not seen it before, it helps you just to understand the Green Claims Code and understand what it means for your business. So let's get this playing for you. There we go.
Green credentials. They're worth shouting about, right? More people want to buy green than ever before, and businesses are responding. But as a business, you need to be sure your green claims aren't misleading. It's your reputation that's at stake. The CMA's Green Claims Code will help you stay on course and avoid misleading your customers. To follow the code, ask yourself, are your claims truthful and accurate? Businesses must live up to all claims made. Are your claims clear and unambiguous? Your customers should be able to understand the claims you're making. Don't confuse them with vague terms or phrases. Do your claims omit or hide important information? Your customers must be able to make informed choices and be given the full picture. Do they only make fair and meaningful comparisons? Products being compared should meet the same needs or be intended for the same purpose. Have you substantiated your claims? Make sure you provide evidence to back up your claims and that it's robust and credible. Do they consider the full life cycle of a product? That's its overall impact from creation to disposal. Use the Green Claims Code to get your green claims right. To find out more, go to gov.uk/greenclaimscode. Brought to you by the Competition and Markets Authority. Green credentials.
Oh, there we go. So essentially, the Green Claims Code covers 6 points. That is to be truthful and accurate, be clear and unambiguous, and to not omit or hide information. So essentially, the first 3 can be grouped into be honest, don't lie, don't deceive people, be very, very truthful about what you're saying and have the information to back it up. Consumers need to be able to make fully informed decisions in order to do that, you need to give them all of the information they need to be able to verify your claims. The fourth one is make fair and meaningful comparisons. This is essentially being fair about the claims you're making. For example, not comparing a walking holiday in the Peak District with a Caribbean cruise, or the carbon footprint of a push bike with a 4x4. It's making sure that you're comparing things that are fair and meaningful comparisons. The fifth one, substantiate your claims. What this boils down to is just being able to back up your claims with credible, robust and up-to-date evidence and proof. And the last one is considering the full life cycle of the product. This last one is becoming more and more important to factor into your green claims. A good example of this is the scrutiny we see on solar panels and the materials needed to produce them, their production processes and their lifespan, whereas we don't see this scrutiny in relation to fossil fuel extraction. So, for example, I was out with some friends recently, and they got into a conversation around electric vehicles and were saying that they weren't interested in buying them. They were terrible. The production process is really, really bad, and things around sort of the minerals and materials that need to be extracted in order to create the batteries and the systems and everything for an electric vehicle. But they're not having the same conversations around fossil fuel cars. So we need to be having that conversation around the full life cycle of a product to really understand the impact, because actually when you compare an electric vehicle to a fossil fuel vehicle, long term the electric vehicle is better, but we're so focused on this one part of it that we're not really looking at the full life cycle of every product that we're buying or we're considering purchasing. And that's why this point is coming in to ensure that we're considering the full life cycle of any product when we're making claims around the green credentials of it. So this is the current situation with green claims at the moment, but there are some things coming in the next few years around some future changes to the green claims. So new EU rules will be coming into place from the 17th of January 2026. So the first one will be banning generic terms without proof. So terms like eco-friendly, natural, biodegradable, environmentally friendly will be terms that you won't be able to use unless you can back up how these products or services relate to these terms. Labels will also be regulated, again, without proof. So you will need, if you're going to put a label on your product, if you're going to have some kind of badge or symbol, it needs to be coming from a credible resource. So let me just go back, sorry. Any labels you use must be based on certified data, essentially. And offsetting will have limited impact without validation. So you will be able to use offsets. There's some people see this and they think that, oh, we won't be able to use carbon offsets. We won't be able to support those projects. You will still be able to use them, but you won't be able to use them against your green claims without validation. But essentially what this all boils down to is that any green claim a company makes must be honest, transparent, and it must have proof to back them up. So if you're going through the process with IIE, for example, you will have that proof, you will have that information behind your claims to be able to validate what you're saying. So this is the future of the green claims. And you might be asking yourself, why is this all happening? Why is all of this happening in regards to green claims and sustainability claims? And basically, a study was released in January this year, conducted by the insights company Trajectory. It was conducted by the insights company Trajectory and the communications agency Fleet Street, and it found that only a quarter of people questioned clearly understood the term green. About the same number of people could accurately describe what sustainable meant, and terms commonly used by businesses such as environmentally friendly and locally grown are only understood by a minority of people. And lastly, 3 months after a ban on single-use plastic, just 47% of people questioned were confident at defining what single-use plastic even meant. So this analysis showed that there was some real lack of understanding around these terms. It also found that there was a real difference between age groups. So, for example, those aged 18 to 24 were more confident when it came to understanding these key terms around the climate and environmental policy. The word sustainability was understood by 24% more people from the age bracket of 18 to 24, compared with consumers aged over 65. Those with higher levels of education had greater confidence in their understanding of key terms, for example, circular economy, whereas it was only understood by 11% of those with a lower level of education. And those who left school, sorry, the term was also understood. Oh, sorry, yeah, the circular economy term was also understood by 30% more people who were still in formal education compared with older people who'd left education after secondary school. So essentially, we've got this real issue with people just not really understanding these terms, and it's becoming really, really easy for consumers to be essentially manipulated by companies into believing that the products and services they're buying are ethical, when in fact they're not. So this is why the Green Claims Code is coming in, and these regulations are coming into place. It's essentially to protect people. It's to make sure that people aren't being manipulated into buying something or believing something that isn't true. So that is essentially giving you a bit of an insight into the greenwashing terms, the different faces of it, why we need to stop green hushing and pushing forward and shouting about our green credentials, what the situation is with the Green Claims Code and how to stay on the right side of it, and the future of it and why this is all happening. In order for you to help to understand your knowledge and test your knowledge on this, we have a resource that you can download. So you can either go to the URL that's on the page right now, or you can scan that QR code, and you'll be able to download a free PDF, which is essentially a green claims checklist. It's a document that it's a really, really simple document that you can use to go through. If you've got any green claims that you're planning to put out, you can just check it against this checklist and sense check it to make sure that it is going to be on the right side of the Green Claims Code. There's also a quiz as well. It's a government quiz that you can go on just to test your knowledge of green claims, just to start to get really comfortable with your own knowledge and your own experience and your own confidence, to build your confidence in pushing out your green claims. Now, I do have a bonus section that wasn't in the agenda earlier on, and this is just to help you try to sort of understand the evolution of green claims and how they've developed over the last few years. And it's in relation to transport emission claims. So someone I know in the sustainability group said he has this really cool hobby of, he calls it cool, he says it's actually quite geeky, in regards to monitoring green claims on transport vehicles. So going back, this is one that he took 8 years ago, and it's this vehicle here just says zero emissions vans. There's no context of what this means in regards to zero emission van. It just says zero emissions vans. Going forward a few more years, you've then got this claim here saying, I'm trying to be cleaner, I drink petrol, not diesel. It's quite confusing. I mean, reading this, you don't really know in what context. Why is petrol better than diesel? What's the difference here? What's going on? Fast forward to today, we've now got this on the back of the bus saying brighter journeys with 100% low or zero emissions buses. Now, going back 8 years, you could have literally just had this on the back of the bus and it would have been fine. But now you have to have that verification and that clarification of what this term actually means. And that's why on this same piece of marketing, you've got this little bit which says at the tailpipe, because obviously the bus that people are taking this journey on, that bus has created a considerable amount of emissions in its production process. So if you were to have that claim zero emission buses, without that element of at the tailpipe, someone could assume that whole bus, the whole journey, everything involved in it was zero emissions, when in fact it's literally that physical journey that people are taking is zero emissions because it's an electric bus. So this is just to give you a bit of an understanding of how these claims have, how the Green Claims Code has caused the evolution in people's green claims marketing. Right, so let's jump into some good and bad examples of green claims comms and marketing. I'm just going to take a quick sip of my tea here. Right, okay, so the first one is flora plant butter. So as you can see on their packaging, they've got a few different bits of labelling, and one of them is in regards to the fact that this plant-based spread emits 68% less emissions than dairy butter. Now, there's no if you were to just have that label, there's no clarification of how this has been tested, how they've got to this figure. So when you look on the bottom of the packaging, they have this part here which says the life cycle assessment tool was developed by Qantas, comparing flora plant butter and dairy butter. So they're telling you where this claim has come from. They're telling you what they've used as a comparison. They've also given you a website link to be able to go and find the percentage in your own country and find more information. So they've clarified the claim that they're making on their product. If we then look at Phil hair care range, they've got lots of different elements on their packaging with accredited labels showing the different green credentials and sustainability credentials and ethical credentials they have behind their business. Then when you go onto their website, they've got more information explaining about the information behind how they've got these accreditations and what they mean. So the consumer can research and really understand and get all of the information they need to verify where these claims have come from and make sure that they're comfortable with the fact that Phil Hair Care are putting these labels onto their packaging. Another really great example of companies being transparent around their business and their business practices is this example of a social media carousel from a clothing brand called Birdsong, where they've broken down their pricing. They've been really, really clear about where they're pricing, how they price their products. They've broken out the cost of their products. They've broken out the fact that they pay their staff a living wage. And it's been really, really clear on their business practices. So this isn't necessarily an obvious green claim, but it's an ethical claim. And it's a really good example of a company being really, really transparent in their marketing. Now let's go into some bad examples. So Easy Grass fake turf. There were 2 issues that were investigated against Easy Grass fake turf, both of which were upheld by the Advertising Standards Authority. So the first one was that the claim fully recyclable was misleading. And so basically within their marketing, they had the fact that their grass was a fully recyclable product. However, they didn't provide sufficient evidence to demonstrate that the artificial grass was fully recyclable. Plus, it's not possible for UK consumers to easily recycle the artificial grass at local recycling centres. So it was deemed to be misleading. The second issue that was investigated was the fact that they named their product Kensington Eco Grass. Further to the issue above, with recycling in the UK, the grass was made from plastic. The extraction of raw materials and subsequent processing to produce the artificial grass harms the environment. The product would also be used to replace real grass, thus having a detrimental impact on biodiversity. So you can see that they've used the term eco, but in reality, the product isn't eco-friendly. The term eco would make people think that this product is a good thing for the environment, when in reality it's not. So it was very, very misleading, and there was no evidence provided to back up these claims and this name that Easy Grass were using on their products. Another example is Brewdog. So they had a social media advert which featured a childlike drawing of the earth covered in flames, and it was accompanied by text stating, "Drink it for me," in the style of child's handwriting. And the poster described Brewdog as beer for your grandchildren, while the accompanying caption said Brewdog was the world's first carbon negative brewery. So the ASA upheld 2 complaints that the advert was misleading on the basis that it failed to make clear that the phrase carbon negative meant the product meant that producing the beer sequestered more carbon than it admitted. They failed to make clear on what basis its beer could be considered to be carbon negative, and they also failed to adequately substantiate the claims about the carbon negative credentials of its beer. Brewdog, as you may know, they've had a few issues in the past. This isn't the first time they've fallen foul of the Advertising Standards Authority. And it's just a really good example of, no matter the size of the company, you have to be really clear. If you're going to make claims, you have to be able to back it up. Now, I have a little test for you, and don't worry, if you don't want to answer this, don't feel like you need to. There's no wrong answers. Well, there is a wrong answer, but I'm really curious, now that I've given you some of this information, whether you can guess why this advert fell foul of the Advertising Standards Authority. So I'm going to play this now. Camilla, obviously I can't see the comments or anything, so if anyone does have a guess, can you just let me know? If not, then obviously I will share the answer.
Could we do something about the waste we produce? Could refilling our spray bottles be a start? try new Dettol spray refills with 70% less plastic and see what it triggers.
So, does anyone want to take a guess as to why this advert fell foul of the Green Claims Code and the Advertising Standards Authority? So basically the ad received 2 complaints, which argue that because the refill pouches are not widely recyclable, the ad misleadingly implies that the product was more environmentally beneficial than the normal plastic cleaner bottles, which actually are very widely recycled. So many local councils aren't equipped to deal with the thin plastic that's used for refill pouches, but they are geared up to deal with the hard plastic, the spray bottles. So basically, the reason that this advert fell foul of the Advertising Standards Authority was because it wasn't taking into consideration the full life cycle of the product. Yes, in regards to the actual manufacture and use of the product, that the refill pouches are using 70% less plastic. But in reality, at the end of that product's life, there's no end for it. It's very, very hard plastic to deal with. And therefore, actually, it's potentially going to create more plastic pollution than the standard bottle, because a standard bottle can be recycled. So this is an example of why you need to be factoring in the full life cycle of a product when you're making green claims like this. I just thought it was a really interesting one, because on the surface of it, I mean, when I first looked at it, I was like, oh, what is the problem here? And then when I was really sort of digging into it, I was like, oh, right, okay, yes, because it's the life cycle. This is part of one of the 6 points with the Green Claims Code, is that you have to consider the full life cycle of a product. So now we've got a bit of insight into green claims and the good examples and bad examples and how you can avoid the pitfalls of it. Let's look at how you can stop. Green hushing and start green shouting. Now, just to clarify, green shouting isn't an official term. It's just something that we've made up. So don't worry about trying to Google it or anything like that. It's just something that we sort of talk about as green shouting. So there are 6 things that you need to do when you want to stop green hushing and start green shouting. The first, as we said earlier on, is just be honest and transparent. The second is use your influence and share your story. So share your journey so far, share your successes, share your challenges, share your future plans. Especially if you're an SME or a smaller business, you know, it's not possible for us to make every single thing. It's not possible for us to do every single sustainability element. Like, you might be renting an office and you might not have the ability to put solar panels on your roof. Share that, you know, share the fact that you've investigated that, you've been trying to take action to do things, and if you've hit challenges, don't be scared to share them, because it still shows that you are ethically minded. You're trying to deliver something, you're trying to create a better future, and you've hit hurdles, and you may find that actually it helps people to think about, oh, I've not thought about putting solar panels on my building. I'm going to look into whether it's something that I can do. Or you may find that somebody comes to you and says, oh, actually, we had that same issue with our landlord and our premises that we were renting, and this was the solution. So actually, you don't always need to share your successes. You can share your challenges, because it helps to further that conversation and further that movement in regards to a sustainable future. So remember, perfection is the enemy of progress. You may be looking at all of the things I've shared earlier on and thinking, oh God, I'm still not really comfortable with saying these things, because I maybe don't have this information here, or I don't have that information there. Share what you have. At the end of the day, if we only wait till everything is perfect, we're not going to deliver the future that we're trying to build. We need progress. We need to take every step we can. So share it. Don't be afraid to talk about the things that you're doing, as long as you can back them up, as long as you can share evidence as to why you've done these things and how you've done these things. That's really what it all boils down to. Can you prove things? Have you got information behind your claims that help to verify what you're saying? And here we go, have verified and credible proof of your claims. There you go, it's exactly that. So, you know, for example, if you're with the IIE and you've been accredited through them, you will have that information. You will have that information to back up your claims. Sell the benefits, not just the facts. So sustainability messaging can often focus on factors that aren't relatable. So, for example, saving the rainforest, reducing emissions, protecting biodiversity. At the end of the day, for the majority of people, it's just not relatable for them. Yes, it's lovely. Yes, they want to feel like they're doing something to save the rainforest, but it's not affecting them day to day when they are trying to deal with their family, they're trying to get the kids to school, they're trying to, cook and clean the house, they're trying to make sure that they're doing well at work, they're trying to pay the bills, worrying about the rainforest and things like that. It's not front of mind for them. And quite often sustainability messaging can talk about things that are so sort of far away from our day-to-day lives. They become almost they just don't they're just not accessible, and people are under pressure. They're often they're often trying to juggle daily life, so they just can't relate to these ideas. We need to flip that. We need to make it something that sells the sustainability benefits, but benefits that relate to that person who is reading that messaging or seeing that messaging or considering buying that product. So there's a really nice example here. It's again from Birdsong, who I shared earlier on, about their transparency with their pricing. They had a carousel on their social media talking about their organic product. But within the carousel, they talked about obviously the ethical and sustainability credentials of that product. But they also made it really clear about why the product was good for the potential buyer. So you can see here they've talked about the fact that because it's made of natural fibres, it helps regulate your temperature. The product gets better with age, it becomes more comfortable, more cozy. It talks about how well it will hold up with washing, because how frustrating is it when you buy something great and then you've washed it a few times and it just looks terrible. They've got their sustainability messaging, but they've also shared why it's a good thing for their potential buyer, so that buyer can really understand how that product helps to benefit them in their lives right now. And don't be afraid to ask for help. I think this is the big thing, is that a lot of the time we feel like we're on our own with this. And actually, there are so many people who are working towards a sustainable future and who want to help. So if you're stuck, if you're not sure, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. And on that point, we're here to help. So get in touch with the team through any one of the methods below, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you've got and help you to create and execute a plan for how to shout about your business's green credentials across your marketing, your social media, your websites, whatever it is. If you're needing some help to build your marketing plan, your green credentials marketing plan, please feel free to reach out. And now on that note, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to hand over to Alex so she can talk you through what you get from IIE and the support that they can give you. So.
Thank you, Kayleigh, as well. That was really, really interesting. The decile thing stumped me a little bit, so I'll be looking into that a little bit further next time. It's really interesting to get to grips with what actually the reasons are behind certain kind of adverts doing the wrong thing. So thank you everyone for joining today. So my name's Alex and I am the marketing comms manager for PEX, but I'm also kind of the marketing comms manager for IIE as well in the same breath. And we thought it'd be a really nice opportunity kind of after what kind of Kayleigh's talked us through is to kind of showcase all the stuff that IIE can help you with as members. We've got a really nice resource pack, and one of my projects I've been working on over kind of the last 6 months is kind of bringing all of these resources together. So once you're audited and accredited, that they're in one easy place that you can either use yourselves or send over to your marketing teams. So to kind of bring it all together, we've put it all into one zip folder, which we're now beginning to send out with your accreditations. And this will include things like brand guidelines and logo guidance, including kind of how long you should have your logos on your website for. Things like case study templates, which I'll go into a little bit of detail next. Press release templates, obviously, we want you to shout about your work as much as you do. So we've got kind of a whole template there for you to create something bespoke to your organisation, depending on what accreditation level you've got, whether you're a new member and want to shout about that. And also at the same time, if you'd like to send that back over to us to have a read through and make sure everything's okay, or if we want to add anything else into it, we're more than happy to help you with those as well. And then we've also got an array of social media graphics as well that you can use. So your marketing department doesn't have to go off and create new graphics. You can have those ready to use. And then obviously the logos as well within your accreditation pack. And the case study template is a really nice one because we will then put those onto our website. And this is kind of as Kayleigh was saying earlier, it's a really easy way to showcase your sustainability progress through a trusted source. So we're fairly well known in the kind of sustainability sector. We have members across the UK and even further afield. So this is a nice way, without you having to do much work, is to kind of submit a case study, and you can link to that in any social media posts you put out, your press releases you're putting out, and it kind of showcases you front and centre on the IE website as well, because we want to celebrate you, as I say, as much as you want to celebrate your own progress. It's also, I think, worth noting that we have our members directory, our green directory online, and I've just highlighted a couple of members. So Shoplight are a relatively new member. So at the moment, they've kind of got a really nice page which kind of showcases what they do. But this area is also really good to show off what you're actually working on at the moment. And if you have got a dedicated comms team, this is somewhere that you can upload recent facts, recent figures, and just kind of show off what you're doing. So as you can see, Roy Thorns, who have been with us for a fairly long time now, I think plus 8 years, I can't zoom in so far, and they've got all of their accreditations on their profile, as long with any awards that they win at the IE Awards as well. But as well as our website, you can also use your own website. So I've got a couple of examples now of how some of our members have showcased their sustainability achievements at IIE on their websites. Some of the bigger organisations obviously might have multiple pages, and they might want to have a whole dedicated area to sustainability, whereas other organisations might want to have just a couple of lines, maybe the IIE logo of your accreditations. So an example from Linnaeus, obviously one of our bigger members, is they've kind of gone quite simple, straight to the point with it. So what you're doing, who IE are to kind of externally certify your progress, and what you're doing at the moment. So as you can see there, it's just as of May 2023, 47 of their business units are members of the scheme. So obviously they're very proud of that, and they want to showcase that. We've also got an example from the IET. They've gone a little bit more detail, kind of the requirements that IIE you have to do to get your accreditation at the end. So they've kind of, this is another way to go into more detail to really showcase what you're actually doing. So if anyone has any questions, it's not confusing. It's very, very straightforward. They showcase exactly what they're doing and what they need to do to get the accreditation. And something else I really liked about this one as well is that they're using the active voice. So it's not just talking about IIE, who they are, but actually how we're measuring our greenhouse emissions and setting improvements over the next 3 years as well. So it makes it feel more personal to them. And then just some other kind of examples as well is just utilising the news article kind of function on your websites as well. So if you don't want to have a dedicated page, or you're kind of in the progress of having a new website, or you don't want to have a static page at the moment, something I would definitely recommend, because obviously you could host your environmental policy, you can host your audits if that's something you do, your annual reports, but actually having news articles. So really shouting about this work, as well as new product launches you might be doing, new collaborations you might be doing, but also shouting about your work towards sustainability. So as you can see here, there's a couple of examples of shouting about accreditations. And then finally, this one, which is quite a nice one in terms of the fact that they linked their environmental policy as well. So they've used one of the graphics, I think it's one of our older graphics now. We've done quite a bit of a revamp in 2024. But they've got a link there. So again, if anyone has any questions on it, rather than kind of like getting confused about the situation, they can just go straight to their environmental policy and see exactly what the company are doing to work towards sustainability. If you don't feel like it's a huge storage document, you don't necessarily want it on your website. If you don't have a massively close relationship with your web developer, it's a long process. I know a lot of SMEs struggle with that. Then you can document your journey on socials, and this can be the whole journey. So as kind of Kayleigh was saying earlier, like if you're looking into creating a travel plan, write about that. It's always interesting to see what you're doing and your commitment to sustainability. So as you can see on here, we've got Kentdale referrals, which have pictures of animals, which always do very well on social media. So they knew what they're doing with that one. You can also move over to kind of jumping in on national days, which is something we do at IE quite a bit, and at PECT as well. So Bova kind of went in with the World Car Free Day, so they kind of showcased what they're doing. That was a really nice graphic, which actually had a few different things, a video going along. And they kind of spoke about our staff reduced emissions and embracing sustainability and their commuting. So that's kind of like throughout the year, and then moving on to kind of your accreditation time. So it looks like Cemex has taken a screenshot of the certificate that they get, just again verifying it with IIE. And then one of my favorite things to do is always to have people in your pictures. So it makes it really, really relatable to other people looking. It kind of gives a pat on the back as well to the people that are actually involved, especially if your green teams have worked really hard on this, and anyone else who's been kind of contributing. Even though I've put an arrow over their faces, I'm really sorry for whoever that is. But it's a really nice way to kind of shout out, and especially with that kind of quote as well. And then just kind of on socials as well, is don't be afraid to have fun with it. So there's a really nice reel that CIPD did. They're relatively new members, they're at silver level, but they went out and cleared woodland on Wimbledon Putney Commons, and they made a whole a video over it, which was really probably quite simple and quick to create, but it just showcased what they're doing. It showed the culture at their workplace. So it's kind of having multiple benefits as well. So it's going, again, linking back to what Kayleigh was saying, it's not just the fact that they're helping the environment, but they're also have got a really fun team. They're all really, like, they work well together, and they're really committed to what they're doing. And just to kind of go back to kind of what we can help with is, obviously we have those social media graphics as well. So if you haven't got the capacity to do all those social media posts, you could just use the ones that we kind of give you as part of your accreditation pack. And then this is a slide I kind of threw in a little bit last minute because we've got the IAE awards obviously every year. Some new members might not have attended one of these yet, but long-standing members will know that this is something that we do ongoing. And applying for award really kind of showcases your company going above and beyond. We've always had a fantastic amount of entries. We're refining that process a little bit easier for this year as well, so it should be quite easy to enter. But last year we had a record number of nominations, so about a quarter of our members actually applied for an award, which is obviously fantastic to see. And we ended up having to add in new categories just because we wanted so many people to kind of be celebrated. So just a note on that nominations will open in May. So there's an array of categories ranging from best social impact to best newcomer to best waste reduction, and we really do encourage you to apply for these. And I think some people can be quite off-put by applying, thinking there'll be loads of competition, but actually we want, even if it's something really small, if it's really big to you, then we want to hear about it, and we want to celebrate that as well. And a sneak peek as well is that this year we'll be going in person and hoping to kind of give you a little bit more information on that soon. We do realise, obviously, as we're a national brand, we have people all over the country, so it will be broadcast virtually as well, but the in-person kind of attendees will get some extra benefits for attending too. And then just to kind of to finalise is just kind of this best practices, but all I can say really from our side is to be authentic, really kind of do what you feel is right. Don't ever, if you're confused by something, it probably means actually maybe this isn't right and maybe you need to delve into it a little bit further. But receiving your IAE accreditation in itself is something to shout about without fear. It shows that you've done your due diligence, you've done the work, and one of our kind of amazing auditors has gone through that and verified that for you. So it's just to remember to communicate this internally, because obviously your staff, retention of staff is a huge thing in terms of everyone wants to kind of work for a company that's doing good, as well as externally. So getting people involved, you might mean that someone might see that we've got this IAE accreditation, but actually think, oh, what's that? Maybe I'll get involved with that next year and join the green team. Being transparent and honest, so making sure that you can back up any of those claims that you're saying. And like I said, use your IAE audit here. Some people put their audits online to really be transparent about it. If you don't want to do that, or you want to take certain segments out of it, that again, absolutely fine for you to do. And speak to your advisor if you're unsure. Like, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you improve in sustainability, and we know that kind of influencing, especially as you get to that kind of green level, is a really important part of your accreditation. So we're here to help. As I mentioned before, using real people, kind of making it obvious that it's your team going out and you're doing it, having a bit of fun with it. And making sure there's that really honest, kind of transparent communication between your green team and marketing teams. There's no point in your green team doing some amazing things, but then no one ever hearing about it. Well, there probably is some great point in that, but also at the same time, from a marketing and comms perspective, you want to be shouting out about these things, so you need to let them know, and the importance of it as well. So maybe going back to some of the points that Kayleigh and Camilla were saying earlier. And then finally, last slide, so just make sure to tag us, because we're happy to reshare. Every morning, one of my jobs is to go online and see what's been tagged and kind of what the amazing progress you guys have been doing whilst I've been offline. Add your sustainability progress into your annual reports if you do have one. A whole section on sustainability is a great way to start, and you can bring things in from your IE audit report here. For marketers, monitoring engagements is also great to feed back to your green team for project evaluation, because there's a section on projects with your IE accreditation. And making use of, I kind of said earlier, but the IE templates and graphics. So the case studies, the press releases, we're really willing to work with you hand in hand on these. So it might feel like quite a big task, but it's a really easy way for you to kind of to share what you've been doing and what you've achieved. And then finally, just to contact us if you need a hand. And that's it from me, I think, Camilla.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alex. So if anybody has any questions, please do put them. I've been made aware that the chat doesn't work for everyone, so do put them in the Q&A box, and I can ask them. And if I'm going to, I could even manage to unmute you and let you ask your own question if you'd like to. I mean, certainly, I thought it was really interesting, Kayleigh, what you said about the scrutiny that green claims and green products come under, and that can lead to sort of a bit of inertia, can't it? And it is a bit of a frightening area, particularly when you're suddenly talking about life cycle analysis, which can be quite a complicated science. So even if certainly IIE members are doing a lot of really good stuff, even if they're not haven't got the absolute, you know, they shouldn't be put off trying to communicate if they don't have a life cycle analysis of something. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Just sort of avoid the claims that might get you into that territory, but talk about the other things that you are doing, rather than making a bold claim that might get you into trouble. Would that be?
Yeah, it's essentially like this, that whole thing I said earlier on about, you know, you don't have to be perfect. You know, when you think about, especially for an SME, we don't have the tools and resources that a large corporate would have. And to be honest, when you look at the Green Claims Code, it's not really designed to catch out SME businesses. Yes, we need to stay on the right side of it, but in reality, it's designed predominantly to make sure that these large corporates that have huge amounts of influence and huge amounts of access aren't manipulating the population at large. So as a small business, you don't need to be perfect. Yes, you should not be manipulating people, and yes, you should not be lying, but you don't have to be perfect. And by being honest and transparent and sharing your progress and sharing where you are, it's a huge part of green credentials, because exactly like I was saying at the beginning, a lot of businesses can feel like they can't take action because they aren't perfect. They haven't got the teams behind them. But actually, every single step we take, whether in personal life or in business life, is positive. It's like, you know, it's people who haven't gone fully plant-based but are doing meat-free Mondays. That's still really important. That's still a really positive step. So if you're taking those small steps in your business, shout about them, let people know, because they are positive. Every single step we take is positive, and we should be shouting about it to encourage others to take those steps too.
Yeah, and as you say, the kind of ability to influence others and get them to have a go at that is really, really strong, isn't it? Yeah. I like the fact that with the brew dog thing, it seems that I can't remember what you said. One of their claims was beer that your grandchildren will drink, and that seemed to be fine. That seemed to stand up.
Oh, it wasn't beer. It wasn't beer that your grandchildren. It was like beer for your grandchildren. It was kind of like, drink this beer for your children's future. Essentially, they were saying, drink this beer because it protects your children's future.
Children's future, right?
Yeah,
okay,
they weren't encouraging underage drinking.
No, I was thinking, right, that's an interesting one that got through the Green Claims Code, at least. The other thing that I wanted to pick up on something you said about Phil, and something that I sometimes see. I think what happens the IIE members on the call might disagree with this, but I think what happens is going through the audit is such a sort of like big time-consuming experience that sometimes what happens is you kind of get to the end of it and then think, right, that's done for now, and want to actually just leave it. And I would suggest, do leave it for a little bit, but come back to it and then start talking about your sustainability achievements. And one of the great ways that you can obviously promote that is by putting a logo into your email that comes out in Alex's pack. But I would really recommend that then there's a link through from that logo through to the website, where there is a page that talks about not just your environmental policy or sustainability policy, because whilst that is pithy, it's not a very interesting read actually. But what is more interesting is we've switched to a renewable tariff. We recycle all our waste. We try and reuse what we can. All these sort of things. We take our staff out once a year to go and do this. We let them volunteer. I don't know, whatever that you're doing. That actually brings it to life more, because the environmental policy is an important document and something that is an official sort of, really lays out how a business, an organization is approaching its how it acts in terms of sustainability. But actually that sort of real life story about what you're actually doing. And again, you pointed out, didn't you, Alex, that keeping it in the present tense is also, nice for making it feel like it's continuous and ongoing.
So I think that's one thing that we quite often try to encourage people with. People will create these sustainability reports, these internal environmental impact reports, and they can quite often be quite dry, and they're created for an internal perspective. But in reality, the information in these documents is really, really valuable from a marketing perspective. And some of the best sustainability reports and environmental impact reports we've seen have been created with an intention of being able to use them as part of their marketing materials. So they've taken the core data and they've turned it into really engaging infographics. And then they've taken those infographics and then they've shared them across their socials and their email marketing and potentially even their adverts. When going through that process of getting your sustainability credential or whatever credential that you've gone through and you've got that accreditation for, it can be a very engaging, in-depth process. But don't let that be the end of it. You've invested all of that time and energy to get to that point where you've got that accreditation. Use it, shout about it, find as many ways as possible to share that across all of your marketing credentials, because it's valuable and you've put time and energy into it. So don't go through that process, create a really dry 12-page document that just sits within an internal team. How can you turn that into a really engaging marketing activity, which then turns that process into sales at the end of the day? That's what we always try to say to people. Think of it as not just that accreditation process, think of it as a marketing activity, and then it will work so much harder for you.
Yeah. And just to translate that into IIE terms a little bit. So all the auditors, of which I'm one, we spend quite a lot of time trying to write things that might be replicable or translatable into put into internal reports or external reports that talk about and we're always happy to give more of a quote, as Alex said, or clarify something if what we've written isn't clear. And we also give quite a nice graphic, which is the carbon footprint. And of course, like you said, with the Green Clean, you want to say exactly which which resources are being measured and what has gone into that calculation. But it's a really good graphic because it shows that you're starting to understand your carbon footprint. And that's a difficult topic, and it's not one that most businesses haven't even started on their journey, and very few are at the end of it. Lots of people are in the middle, and it's all about kind of building that understanding, getting to grips with it, and then and saying what you're doing to try and to make improvements. So that, I will say thank you again, Kayleigh and Alex. Thank you to you all for attending, and look forward to seeing you again soon. So thank